Hey guys, how you doing? This will be my first video journal, so we'll see how it goes. So yeah, first things first. As you all may or may not know, my field experience started out a little rocky. On the first day, I wasn't sure whether or not she even liked me or if she wanted me there. She wasn't making eye contact with me. Um, she really wasn't talking to me much. She didn't introduce me to the class, anything like that. But after the first week, things have seemed to be clearing up. Um, Last week, I actually got to teach a little bit. I'll go more into that in a minute. She actually's talking to me now. She introduced me to all her classes. I get to see her meetings with the other Algebra 1 teachers, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, so going to the meetings is pretty interesting. Um, I feel like, and I'm sure that you all see this too, but us as teachers, we have to put on a face when we're in front of the class, and so a lot of the times we aren't really ourselves, so to speak. So in the meetings, when she's working with her colleagues, I actually kind of get to see what she's like outside of that face that she puts on. She's not much different, but I actually see her like joking and laughing, which is something that she doesn't actually do in class too much, or with me in general. So that's nice. It's kind of it's nice to see her get out of her strict demeanor. She's very strict and she's kind of uptight. It seems like almost. And for me, I'm kind of more laid back and I like to be open and honest with people. And so it's kind of tough for me to relate to her on a personal level. But hey, I mean, we're in class and that's not time for trying to relate to my field placement teacher. It's more about, learning how to put the face on. So that's totally okay. And like I said, things are getting a lot better. So I actually saw a meeting last week that was pretty interesting. They had two people from another district come in with a test, and it was going to be an all district test. And they actually had all these different Algebra 1 teachers go through the test and write notes and comments and decide whether or not these problems were actually touching on the standards. And, they were really frank and really honest with these ladies that came in with this test. And some of the problems were good and they were honest about that and they said that they were good problems. But at the same time, some of it was kind of bad and they were really, really frank about that. And I mean, at some point, they were like, this problem is awful and we don't even think it should be in there. But this test had already been like put through all kinds of stuff and it was already like on its way to being in schools. So it was just kind of funny to see that. They were supposed to be just glancing through, checking for any small problems, but they actually ended up kind of beating on it pretty bad. So it was interesting. It was cool though at the same time. A lot of the teachers seem really sure of themselves, and then others seem kind of to be I don't know the word for it, but kind of just keeping to themselves. There was 6 of them in there. And so, like I said, half of them were really gung ho about saying what they thought about stuff, and the others were just kind of there. So let's see. As far as the being in the classroom goes, I've been having a pretty good time. So after the first week, the second week, I was the designated passer outer guy. I got a seating chart and a handful of what was it? Quizzes or homework? I can't remember. And she pretty much just said, "Why don't you help me pass these out?" And so, actually, it was really good because I got a chance to try to match some names with faces. And I mean, as much as we try to not judge students, I was able to see what kind of grades that they were getting, at least on that one particular assignment. I'm sure that that doesn't reflect their overall performance, but I was able to see kind of who was doing really, really well. Some people were getting 100%, and then other people were getting like, 2 out of 10 or 3 out of 10. So I was able to see stuff like that, which was interesting. Um, a lot of the students who weren't doing very well, you would assume that they weren't doing very well. They were the ones who were disrupting class, or on the other end of the spectrum, they were the ones who were kind of just sitting there, not paying attention, heads down kind of thing. And so that makes sense. Actually, I was pretty pleased to see there's this one student, his name is T, and he kind of just sits in the back with his head down. He never talks to anybody. He doesn't want any help from anybody. And I was grading some assignments last week, and he did really, really well. He didn't show too much work, but he knew what he was doing, and he got a really good grade. So I thought that was really cool. I was proud of him. Um, so yeah, I mean, for the most part, though, I get the feeling that students are generally uninterested, which is, I mean, it's math class, so I'm not gonna expect all the students to be jumping around, laughing, and having a good time, but I really do see a huge lack of interest and just wanting to learn. I really don't see too much of that. And I don't really know that that's so much the teacher's fault. I think it's just, um, the first couple of the weeks of school sets the tone, and maybe that's kind of the tone that she set, and the students are just feeding off of that, just kind of going through the motions. But they really do seem unengaged and uninterested most of the time. Um, but anyways, I think that that also is due to the fact that I teach on a Friday. I go in there on Fridays, and so it's the last day of the week. The last thing they want to be doing is math. They want to be on start their weekends and having fun. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm gonna go in on Wednesday mornings, and maybe it'll be a little different. Um, but I don't know yet. Let's see what else do I have. So last week I actually got to teach a little bit. She offered me to go over one of the problems from the homework and ask questions and help the students go through. And it actually went pretty well. She dropped it on me out of nowhere, and I wasn't ready for it. I went through 2 periods in the morning, and she did it all. I kind of sat back and watched, and then on the third period, she asked me, "Hey, do you want to go over the homework problem with them?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And I was really nervous. Anxiety immediately spiked, obviously, um, even though it was just for one problem. And I had seen the problem. And it was funny because when you're watching her teach, you know exactly what she should be doing, and you know the problem, and you know the math. But then when she asks you to do it, it's like all that goes out the window. I like forgot what the problem was about, and I didn't even know what to do. So it was funny, but I fell right into it. Um, it was funny. So it was just a simple multiplication, like ratio problem. So I asked the students to help me through it. So I was up in front, working on the smartboard. I start the problem, I write down the first thing, and I'm asking students to help me through it. So I tried to call in a couple of them by name, but I was nervous, and your memory just goes out the window when you're nervous, really. So I was kind of just pointing and calling on people, which is okay, but I could have done better in that respect. But I had the students helping me through, and we get this uh, big line of multiplication to do. And we multiply fractions straight across the top and straight across the bottom, and we get the answer fraction. And I had students telling me what the answers were. So I said, all right, what do we have on the top? And some student yelled out a number, and then one student yelled out another number, and I was like, well, which one is it? And I asked them to double check it on the calculators, and finally got the right answer, put it on the top, and then I asked the same thing, well, what do we have on the bottom? And student yelled out a number, and I wrote it down, and then I said, so what do we have? And it turned out that the answer that I wrote for the bottom of the fraction was wrong, and I didn't actually even see the mistake. So I'm like sitting there trying to figure out why this answer looks wrong, but I didn't see where the mistake happened. So I'm asking the students, does anybody see the mistake? Does anybody see the mistake? And nobody was really responding. And eventually, Miss Rivas, my teacher, was like, well, we didn't multiply all the way across on the bottom. And so I felt silly because I should have seen it, and I should have been able to be like, oh, well, here is the mistake. But it just didn't really go that way, which is okay. It was my first time being up in front of them. They were really respectful. Nobody was like ignoring me. Everybody was pretty attentive, and that was really cool. So they gave me their respect, and I want to be able to repay that and give them my respect as well. So that was really cool. It was my first experience of teaching in front of the class. My last field experience, I really didn't do any of that. I walked around and helped a lot of kids, but I didn't do any teaching in front of the class. So this is uh, officially my first teaching experience in front of an entire class. I do a lot of tutoring, but those are with 1 to 2 students at a time. So that was really cool. I will definitely be asking for more of those opportunities. She said, my teacher said that she really believes in just getting up there, and the more chances that you have to do it, the better you'll be. And she told me that. So that's a really good sign, especially coming from the teacher who didn't really seem to want anything to do with me. So yeah, so far it's going really well. She seems to be warming up to me a lot. I get to see all those meetings, which is really cool. I can kind of see some of the other math teachers, which they all seem to really know what they're doing. There's a couple of them that, may not be the best teachers, but who am I to say? I don't know. I don't see them in the classes. I can just tell by the dynamics of how they work together. And I feel, that we're all going to have to deal with that, working with adults and working with some adults that we may not agree with how they do things. But, that's just that's the game we play. So I don't have a problem moving forward, trying to ask her for more opportunities to get up and teach. I don't have any problems asking to be the designated passer outer guy. I will happily pass stuff out. Um, so yeah, I look forward to really making this my own, and helping her too. Because it's important. I'm in there, and if I was in her shoes and I had some student in there that I was supposed to facilitate, I mean, I don't know that I would be happy about it. So I want to make sure that I can be as good to her as she is to me. So I really look forward to it. So far, it's been a really good experience, and yeah. So hopefully this journal wasn't too boring. First video journal. Just trying to get comfortable with listening to the sound of my own voice. Trying to get comfortable with just having an eye on me and, keeping it going, keeping the conversation going. And so, yeah, that's what it's all about. So hope you guys have a good weekend. I will see you on Wednesday, tomorrow. And yeah, cheers.